What does that mean?
Personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility, but it even goes beyond that. Having due regard to all circumstances of each particular relation and situation. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, no matter what you think the law says, no matter what you think the Supreme Court says the law says, no matter what you've been taught what the law says, I will tell you what the law is. In each particular situation and process. That is public policy. All over the United States, people go into court and say, man, I had this court case and it said this, this, and this, and this. And the judge says, not in my court. In a little bit this afternoon, Brandy and I are going to show you what the judge said to me. And it's word for word. I'll never forget it. Okay? And my closing argument was brilliant to the jury. Took them 45 minutes. Because they sit there and they go, what is he doing? I went to jail. Because I didn't understand public policy. Now I understand it. Your Honor, what would you be requiring me to pay in? Well, you just go pay Federal Reserve notes. I had a friend of mine in court 3 weeks ago. Your Honor, what is my remedy? I don't even know what you're talking about. Your Honor, let's not insult each other's intelligence. Your only remedy is to pay $175. Your Honor, that would be against public policy, would it not? The judge just exploded. Maybe we'll do that one tomorrow. Okay? I don't have time to write it up till tonight, but I think we'll do that one tomorrow. So you can see what goes on. I mean, I've got it. He told me right on the phone exactly what went on. There can be no law, if you don't remember anything else, there can be no law requiring, or contract requiring you to pay in anything. You can volunteer all you want to. Okay? That is the key aspect to this whole process of commercial, what we call commercial redemption or UCC process. That is the whole significant factor in this whole thing, because we've all been sold a bill of goods. Okay? In third grade, over the last 3 weeks, all across America, your children, if you have any in third grade, were taught, guess what this week is? This is the week that everybody in America has to file a tax return. I hope you all got filed. Because I wouldn't encourage anybody not to. Okay? By the way, you saw the first obvious form of censorship in the last week in America that I remember. Okay? With USA Today and the We the People ad. That ad was supposed to run Friday and they rejected it. On 60 Minutes Tuesday night, they were supposed to run the other segment of last week's. That went out the window too. A friend of mine that I had dinner with in Southern Illinois, his name's Whitey Harrell. And I'm sure Whitey, he doesn't mind me talking about this because he's been all over the news anyway, but I had dinner with him and he was explaining to me what happened in his trial. He beat the state of Illinois on 4 counts of willful failure to file. Turned that state upside down. He even had an attorney. Okay? It was amazing. The prosecutor was absolutely asleep at the switch. The first thing the prosecutor allowed was a homeschool lady on the jury. That is an absolute no-no. Do you know why? Because those people have a brain. Okay? And they question, and they look, and they research, and they're educated because they're teaching their children. And so that was his first mistake. His second mistake was he never objected to anything that Whitey put into the record. He didn't drop a motion in limine on him. You know what a motion in limine is? A motion in limine is used by the prosecution. It was designed, by the way, for the defense, but it's used by the prosecution to exclude all evidence that would be considered irrelevant or confusing to the jury, like the truth. Okay? That's irrelevant and confusing to what we really want to accomplish here. That's why I went like this in my closing argument, because I said to these people, why is it that you haven't heard my side of what went on here? Objection, Your Honor. Well, this guy didn't object. And so Whitey got all his evidence in on the record over this week-long trial. And the jury saw all of this. And then there was a little meeting after the defense rested and they're ready to go to trial, or to the jury. There was a little meeting that night between the prosecutor and the judge. And the judge says, guess what, Mr. Prosecutor, you got big problems. Because you let all this in and you didn't put in a motion in limine. And so the prosecutor says, well, I'll put one in now. He says, good, I'll grant it. So when the jury went to the jury room the next day and they start deliberating, the first thing they did is they picked a jury foreman. Guess who? The homeschool lady. Okay? And so now they start sifting through the evidence, and guess what? All of the evidence that they heard Whitey put in isn't there. And so they're going, we don't know what happened, but none of this evidence is here. So they send out a note to the judge and they'd said, we would like to have Mr. Harrell's evidence. A judge looks at it, he writes, no, and sends it back. So they're sitting there and they go, what went on there? Why can't we have his evidence? Because they missed it. They do all this outside of their presence. Okay? And so they heard all week long Mr. Harrell asking witness after witness after witness, show me the law. Here's the code book. Show me the law. Nobody could. So they sent another note to the judge. Please give us the law that requires Mr. Harrell to file a tax return in Illinois. The judge writes, no. 15 minutes later, he was acquitted on all counts. Okay? Now, here's the way that the media works. Whitey was invited to the We the People event last year in Washington, D.C. The Springfield, Illinois paper, which, by the way, Springfield is the capital of Illinois, headline, I got a copy of the paper, this big. Tax dodger gets hero's welcome in Washington, D.C. Now, here's a man acquitted on all counts and libeled in the newspaper as a tax dodger. The jury of his peers said he is innocent. The newspaper, the Fourth Estate, the fourth branch of government, they said tax dodger gets hero's welcome. Now, that's the mentality of a lot of people in the country. It's not my mentality. I say I'll pay every lawful tax I'm required to pay. Wait a minute. Required to pay? Did you hear my words? Required to pay. Okay? Every obligation shall be discharged dollar for dollar. Okay? When they took away the substance, as you're going to find here in a little bit, what all substance was gold as well. Substance was the main thing backing the money, or backing the currency that was out there. Well, then they did one other thing.